Welcome to Old Testament History, Chapter 5, Session 1B, The Return from Exile of the Hebrews, Part 2. The impossible was coming to pass. As Isaiah had prophesied of Cyrus, he would decree, "To Jerusalem thou shalt be built, and to the temple thy foundations shall be laid," and it was so. He let go the captives, not for price nor reward, just like God said. And there they were in Jerusalem again, worshiping him and rejoicing. Oh, well, needless to say, this was a grievous defeat for the adversary. He had had Judah and Israel in his very grasp. He was ready to crush them. But God's team defeated him, doing miracles, astonishing kings, gaining their trust, and even advising them. "Oh, no!" the adversary howled. "This cannot stand." He quickly mustered his dastardly dealers of doom and charged them to stop this revival at all costs. Stop it now. Ezra chapter 4, verse 1. Ezra 4:1. Now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity built the temple unto the Lord God of Israel, then they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers and said to them, "Let us build with you, for we seek your God, as you do. And we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Ashur, which brought us up hither." See, the Samaritans were Jews by religion, not by blood, for they had been imported in to repopulate the territory formerly occupied by the lost 10 tribes of Israel. They had been carried off and scattered throughout the Assyrian Empire. The Samaritans were Gentiles, formerly, brought in from other lands by the Assyrians, and they had converted to Judaism. Now, normally, such Gentile proselytes were honored and welcomed into the congregation. But these Samaritans were not genuine, as we soon shall see. And that was the cause for the 600-year grudge against the Samaritans, which was still enforced against them in the gospel times. Chapter 4, verse 3. But Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel, they were walking by the Spirit. And they said unto him, "You have nothing to do with us to build a house unto our God, but we ourselves together will build unto the Lord God of Israel, as King Cyrus the king of Persia hath commanded us." See, one of the tricks of the adversary when success is going on is to bring in counterfeits that will dilute the movement of the word. That's what happened with Paul, with that woman who was a diviner, and she said, "These are the servants of the Most High God." And Paul said, "Yeah, right," because she was a fortune teller. And it's in Acts chapter 16. So the same trick. The adversary brings in people to dilute the movement of the word. And that's what these Samaritans would have done. And Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel, they knew what was going on. And then their true colors showed in verse 4. Because it says, "Then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building." Well, why is that? Well, they didn't want Jerusalem to rise again to prominence, because it would threaten their status in Samaria, which was the most influential city in the region at that time, because Jerusalem had been destroyed. Another issue that needs clarification in the Ezra-Nehemiah record is the names of Persian kings. I covered this briefly earlier. This is revealed in the next few verses, because we have to realize that many of these are thrown names and not the names that most modern historians give them. The Persian dynasty to us, when we study world history, is Cyrus, Cambyses, Darius, Xerxes, and Artaxerxes. That's what we call them. But those actually are not their names. Those actually are titles. And the Jews called more than one person by those same titles. Look at Ezra chapter 4, verse 5. So these guys, the Samaritans, in chapter 4, verse 5, hired counselors against the Jews to frustrate their purpose to build the temple. All the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia, and in the reign of Ahasuerus, in the beginning of his reign, wrote they unto him an accusation against the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem. And in the days of Artaxerxes, wrote Bishlam, Merithredath, Tabeel, and the rest of their companions unto Artaxerxes, king of Persia. And the writing of the letter was written in the Syrian tongue and interpreted in the Syrian tongue. And Rehum the chancellor and Shimshai the scribe wrote a letter against Jerusalem to Artaxerxes the king. Now, so you have Cyrus, Darius, Ahasuerus, and Artaxerxes here. But this went on, like verse 5 says, from all the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia. So that means that Ahasuerus and Artaxerxes are in between Cyrus until Darius. You see? So Ahasuerus and Artaxerxes, especially Artaxerxes, can't be King Artaxerxes that the historians name, because he was 2 kings after Darius. You understand? So, if this passage is concerning what went on between Darius and Cyrus, then Artaxerxes has to be someone else than what the historians call that name. Now, Bullinger also says these are thrown names. He says Ahasuerus means chief of rulers. Darius means holder, like holder of power or authority. Xerxes, the Persian word, is Shashan Shah, and that's translated as emperor. It means really king of kings. We hear the word Shah, the Shah of Iran. That's a Persian word which means king. So Shashan Shah is king of kings. Then you have Kashayar Shah is another form of it. Then Artaxerxes is whose kingship or reign is through truth. That's what Artaxerxes means in Persian. So these are thrown names. Some other examples. Daniel chapter 9, verse 1. I read this before. In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes, who was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. So, this seed of the Medes was Darius the Mede, that figured that night that Belteshazzar was killed when the handwriting was on the wall, and Daniel read it, and then it says Darius the Mede took the kingdom. This is the same. And this Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, would then be Cambyses, the son of Cyrus. So Darius was the Mede who was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. So he was the satrap, the governor set over the realm of Babylon. So Ahasuerus then would be Cyrus, another name for him, and Darius is another name for Cambyses. Then we get to chapter 4, verse 6 of Ezra. And in the reign of Ahasuerus, in the beginning of his reign, wrote they unto him an accusation against the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem. Well, we know that that has to be in between Cyrus and Darius, so this would have to be Cambyses. All right, then we get to Esther, chapter 1, verse 1, and there's an Ahasuerus there. And it's real interesting. If you look at Esther, chapter 1, verse 1, Esther, chapter 1, and in verse 1, it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, and then there's a parenthesis, and it says, this is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia over 127 provinces. Well, wait a minute. Why would that parenthesis be necessary unless there were other individuals who had that throne name, Ahasuerus? You see? Now, we'll get to who this was when we get to the book of Esther. Concerning Artaxerxes, Ezra chapter 6, verse 14. It says, the elders of the Jews built, they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo, and they built and finished it according to the commandment of the God of Israel, and according to the commandment of Cyrus, and of Darius, and Artaxerxes, king of Persia. Now this Artaxerxes cannot be Artaxerxes Longianus, that was 2 rulers after Darius. That Artaxerxes has to be a throne name for Cambyses. And then it talks about that in chapter 4 of Ezra, verse 23 and 24. Now when the copy of King Artaxerxes' letter was read before Rehum and Shimshai the scribe and their companions, they went up in haste to Jerusalem unto the Jews and made them to cease by force and power. They made them stop building. That happened in between Cyrus and Darius because the temple, the second temple, was finished during the reign of Darius. So that means Artaxerxes has to be a throne name in between Darius and Cyrus. I know it's confusing, but that's what they called them. So those are throne names. Look at Ezra chapter 4, verse 9. Ezra chapter 4, verse 9. So we're going to go back to where they were when they had all of that joy and rejoicing, when they had just laid the foundation of it, okay? They had just begun work on that. And so, Ezra chapter 4, verse 9, those Samaritans had come there and they said, well, we want to build it with you. And the men of God said, no, we don't think so. And so then they hired counselors to frustrate it, right? So here's an example of that. Ezra chapter 4, verse 9. Then wrote Rehum the chancellor and Shimshai the scribe and the rest of their companions, the Didonites, the Apharshartites, the Tarpielites, the Aphrasites, the Archavites, the Babylonians, and the Shushanites, and the Dehavites, and the Elamites, and the Termites, and the rest of the nations whom the rest, great and noble, and snapper brought over, and set in the cities of Samaria. So it's talking about the people that Ashurbanipal brought in, I think, of Assyria, and set in the cities of Samaria, and the rest that are on this side of the river at such a time. Verse 11. This is the copy of the letter that they sent to him, even unto Artaxerxes the king. Now this has to be Cambyses, his throne name. Thy servants, the men on this side of the river, at such a time. Be it known unto the king that the Jews which came up from thee to us are come to Jerusalem, and they're rebuilding this rebellious and bad city, and have set up the walls, and have joined the foundations. be it known unto the king, that if this city be built, and the walls be set up again, they will not pay toll or tribute or custom, and so shalt endamage the revenue of the kings. But now, because we have maintenance from the king's palace, and it was not meet for us to see the king's dishonor, they're rubbing him. Therefore we have sent and certified to the king, that search may be found in the book of records of thy fathers, so shalt thou found in the book of the records, and know that this city is a rebellious city, and hurtful to kings and provinces, and that they have moved sedition with the same of old time, for which was the city destroyed. We certify the king, that if this city be built again, and the walls thereof be set up, by this means thou shalt have no portion on this side of the river. Verse 17. Then sent the king and answered to Rahab the counselor, the chancellor, and Shimshai the scribe, and to the rest of their companions that dwell in Samaria, and unto the rest beyond the river, peace. And at such a time, the letter which you sent unto us has been plainly read before me, and I command and search had been made, and it was found that this city of old time hath made insurrection against kings, and that rebellion and sedition have been made therein. There have been mighty kings also over Jerusalem, which have ruled over all countries beyond the Euphrates River, and toll and tribute and custom was paid to them. Give you now commandment to cause these men to cease, and that this city not be builded until another commandment shall be given from me. Take heed now that you fail not to do this. Why should damage grow to the hurt of the kings? So, the Samaritans, who believed in God, who were proselytes, thwarted the purposes of God. They were putting their politics above their faith. Woohoo! So they made them stop. Verse 23. So when the copy of the king Artaxerxes, or Cambyses' letter, was read before Rahab and Shimshai the scribe and their companions, they went up in haste to Jerusalem unto the Jews and made them cease by force and power. So then ceased the work of the house of God, which is at Jerusalem, and it ceased until the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, king of Persia. So now, do you understand why the Samaritans were not allowed to worship in the temple at Jerusalem? Yeah. Yeah. They had stopped it from being built. Now we meet more members of God's team, the prophets Haggai and Zechariah. You see, it's not just one man that gets things done God's way. It's not some top-down authoritarian rule. Jesus had 12 apostles. Well, we need the same thing. Ezra chapter 5 verse 1. Then the prophets Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo prophesied unto the Jews that were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of the God of Israel unto them. Then rose up Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel and Jeshua the son of Josedek, and they began again to build the house of God, which is at Jerusalem, and with them were the prophets of God helping them. So they defied the order of that king that had written that letter to the Samaritans, and they had come and made them stop. And now these two prophets say, all right, it's time to get started again. Take a look at Haggai. Haggai, chapter 1, verse 1. Haggai 1:1. In the 2nd year of Darius the king, in the 6th month, in the 1st day of the month, came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet unto Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua. Now see, at Azariah he's called Jeshua. Here he's called Joshua. Same one. The son of Josedek the high priest, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, This people say, the time is not come, the time that the Lord's house shall be built, because they were intimidated by the the Samaritans, etc. Then came to the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet, saying, Is it time for you, O ye, to dwell in your paneled houses, and this house lie waste? See, most of the houses back then were brick and stone, so to have wood paneling, that was a luxury. So is it a time to have paneled houses, and this house, the house of God, lies waste? Now therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. You've sown much, but you bring in little. You eat, but you don't have enough. You drink, but you're not filled with drink. You clothe, but nobody's warm. And he that earns wages to put in a bag with holes. Did you ever notice something's wrong? Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Go up to the mountain and bring wood. Build the house, and I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, saith the Lord. You looked for much, and lo, it came to little. And when you brought it home, I did blow up on it, and it vanished. Why, saith the Lord of hosts? Cause my house is waste, but everybody of you runs to your own house. Therefore the heaven over you is stayed from dew, and the earth is stayed from her fruit. And I called for a drought upon the land, and upon the mountains, and upon the corn, and upon the new wine, and upon the oil, and upon that which the ground brings forth, upon men, and upon cattle, and upon all the labor of the hands. Then Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, and Joshua the son of Josedek, the high priest, with all the remnant of the people, they obeyed the voice of the Lord. The team started moving again. The Lord their God, and the words of Haggai the prophet, and the Lord their God had sent him. And the people did reverence before the Lord. Then spake Haggai the Lord's messenger, and the Lord's message unto the people, saying, I am with you, saith the Lord. So don't worry about the king of Persia. And the Lord stirred up the spirit of Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and the spirit of Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, and the spirit of all the remnant of the people. And they came and did work in the house of the Lord of hosts their God. So now, they had started the reconstruction. But remember, this was in violation to what the Samaritans had orchestrated and the commandment of the king that they had coerced. But God told his prophets that there was a window of opportunity and everything was going to work out. I am with you. Now, next we see a more facet of this teamwork. Haggai encourages Zerubbabel and Joshua. Look at Haggai chapter 1, verse 15. In the 24th day of the 6th month, in the 2nd year of Darius the king, in the 7th month, in the 21st day of the month, came the word of the Lord to the prophet Haggai, saying, Speak now to Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and Josedek the son of Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, and the residue of the people, saying, Who is left among you that saw this house in her first glory? And how do you see it now? Is it not in your eyes in comparison of it as nothing? It was much smaller. Yet now be strong, O Zerubbabel, saith the Lord, and be strong, O Joshua, son of Josedek, the high priest, and be strong, all you people of the land, saith the Lord, and work. For I am with you, saith the Lord of hosts, according to the word that I covenanted with you when you came out of Egypt. Man, oh man. So my spirit remains among you. Fear ye not. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, Yet once it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens, and the earth, and the sea, and the dry land. I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come. And I will fill this house with glory, saith the Lord of hosts. So guess who is going to come into this house that you guys are building now. Wow. Ha ha. The silver is mine, the gold is mine, saith the Lord of hosts. The glory of this house shall be greater than of the former, saith the Lord of hosts. And in this place will I give peace, saith the Lord of hosts. How's that going to happen? Yeah. Chapter 2, verse 20. Chapter 2, verse 20 of Haggai. And again, the word of the Lord came to Haggai in the 24th day of the month, saying, Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth, and I will overthrow the throne of kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen, and I will overthrow the chariots, and those that ride in them, and the horses and their riders shall come down, every one by the sword of his brother. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, I will take you, O Zerubbabel, my servant, the son of Shealtiel, saith the Lord, and I will make thee as a signet. For I have chosen thee, saith the Lord of hosts. A signet, like wearing the signet ring. He's the decision maker. You see that? So, now another member of that team was Zechariah. Look at Zechariah, the book of Zechariah. Zechariah chapter 1, verse 1. Zechariah 1:1. In the 8th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, came the word of the Lord unto Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo the prophet, saying, The Lord hath been sore displeased with your fathers. Therefore say thou unto them, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Turn ye unto me, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will turn unto you, saith the Lord of hosts. Be ye not as your fathers, unto whom the former prophets had cried, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Turn ye now from your evil ways, and from your evil doings. But they did not hear, nor hearken to me, saith the Lord. Well, your fathers, where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever? But my words and my statutes, which I commanded my servants and the prophets, did they not take hold of your fathers? And they returned and said, like the Lord of hosts thought to do unto us, and according to our ways and according to our doings, so he hath dealt with us. Look at chapter 1, verse 7. Chapter 1, verse 7, upon the 24th day of the 11th month, which is the month Shabbat, in the 2nd year of Darius came the word of the Lord unto Zechariah, son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo the prophet, saying, I saw by night, and behold a man riding upon a red horse, and he stood among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom. Behind him were there red horses, and speckled horses, and white horses. Then said I, O my Lord, what are these? And the angel said, that talked with me, and said to me, I'll show you what these be. And the man that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, These are they whom the Lord has sent to walk to and fro through the earth. And they answered, and the angel of the Lord that stood among the myrtle trees and said, We have walked to and fro through the earth, and behold, all the earth sits still and is at rest. I wonder what they had to do with that. And the angel of the Lord answered and said, O Lord of hosts, how long wilt thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah, against which thou hast had indignation these 70 years? And the Lord answered the angel that talked with me, good and comforting words. Look at chapter 2, verse 1. Zechariah, chapter 2, verse 1. I lifted up mine eyes again and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. And I said, Where are you going? And he said to me, To measure Jerusalem. We're going to see if it measures up, all right? To see what the breadth thereof and what the length thereof is. And behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said to him, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls for the multitude of men and cattle therein. Wow. For I said the Lord will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. You think they had to worry about the king of Persia anymore? Ho, ho, come forth, flee from the land of the north, saith the Lord, for I have spread you abroad as the four winds of heaven, saith the Lord. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwells with the daughter of Babylon, for thus saith the Lord of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto those nations which spoiled you, for he that touches you touches the apple of his eye. You ain't going to mess with that. For behold, I will shake my hands upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants, and you shall know that the Lord of hosts has sent me. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith the Lord. And many nations shall be joined to the Lord in that day, and shall be my people, and I will dwell in the midst of thee. And thou shalt know that the Lord of hosts has sent me unto thee. And the Lord shall inherit Judah his portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Jerusalem again. Be silent, O all flesh, before the Lord, for he is raised up out of his holy habitation. He's going to work. So now we see a facet of how that team worked together, because Zechariah also encouraged Joshua. Look at chapter 3, verse 1. Zechariah chapter 3, verse 1. And he showed me Joshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And the Lord said to Satan, The Lord rebuke thee, O Satan. Even the Lord that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? That's an apt description of what happened to Judah and Jerusalem. They were in the fire, and God plucked them out. Verse 3, Now Joshua was clothed with filthy garments, and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake to those that stood before him, saying, Take away the filthy garments from him. Unto him he said, Behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with a change of raiment. And I said, Let them set a fair mitre upon his head. So they set a fair mitre upon him, and clothed him with garments. And the angel of the Lord stood by. And the angel of the Lord protested unto Joshua, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, If thou wilt walk in my ways, if thou wilt keep my charge, then thou shalt also judge my house, and shalt also keep my courts, and I will give you places to walk among these that stand by. That is what our ministries are. We have places to walk, and if we do the same, then we'll get the same. Walk in his ways, keep his charge, do what God says, then we will also have the opportunity to judge, rule, help, advise in his house, and keep his courts, and have places to walk among these that stand by. Oh, glory! Hear now, O Joshua, high priest, thou and thy fellows that sit before thee, for they are men wondered at, because they're the team. Behold, I will bring forth my servant, the branch. Who's that? This is a prophecy of the Messiah. For behold, the stone that I have laid before Joshua, upon one stone shall be 7 eyes. Behold, I will engrave the engraving thereof, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will remove the iniquity of that land in one day. He's talking about the cornerstone of the temple, and it'll have 7 eyes on it. That echoes all the way to the book of Revelation. Chapter 3, verse 10, in that day saith the Lord of hosts, you shall call every man his neighbor under the vine and under the fig tree. That's the adage about everybody's going to have their own place, and they're going to be comforted there and have their own vine and fig tree. Wow. Chapter 4, verse 1, Zechariah 4:1. And the angel that talked with me came again, and waked me as a man that is wakened out of his sleep. And he said unto me, what do you see? And I said, I've looked, and behold, a candlestick, all of gold, with a bowl upon the top of it, and his 7 lamps thereon, and the 7 pipes to the 7 lamps which are upon the top thereof, and 2 olive trees by it, one upon the right side of the bowl, and the other upon the left side thereof. So I answered and spake to the angel that talked to me, saying, what are these, my Lord? And the angel that talked with me answered and said to me, don't you know what these are? And I said, no, I don't. Then he answered and spake to me, saying, this is the word of the Lord unto Zerubbabel, saying, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. That's how this is going to get done. Who art thou, O great mountain, before Zerubbabel? Thou shalt become a plain. It'll squash you, you little old mountain. And he shall bring forth the headstone thereof, the cornerstone of the temple, with shoutings, crying, grace, grace be unto it. Moreover, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, the hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house, and his hands shall also finish it. And thou shalt know that the Lord of hosts has sent me unto you. Wow. How encouraging. You see how the team worked? Verse 10, for who hath despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice, and shall see the plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel. That was like a level is what we get the horizontal. A plummet is what you get the vertical. All right? So they're putting the cornerstone in and making it square with a plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel with those 7. They are the eyes of the Lord, which run to and fro throughout the whole earth. The same 7 angels we see in the book of Revelation. They're depicted with the 7 eyes that were on the cornerstone of the second temple. Verse 11, then answered I and said to him, what are these 2 olive trees upon the right side of the candlestick and upon the left thereof? And I answered again, and he said, what be these 2 olive branches which through the 2 golden pipes emptied the golden oil out of themselves? And he answered me and said, don't you know what these are? And I said, no. And he said, these are the 2 anointed ones that stand by the Lord of the whole earth. What a vision. So, these 2 prophets, Haggai and Zechariah, encouraged Jeshua and Zerubbabel and the people, and they commenced the building of the temple again. But you know what? It didn't take long for the opponents to notice. So that's when they came to them again, and they said, what are you building for? And that's when, remember, their plans backfired, because they sent and they found the document in the archives that had said, Cyrus said this could be built, and moreover, he said it could be financed. And then, moreover, remember, they said, now you Samaritans have to help pay for it, because their subterfuge to try to stop it had been exposed. Wow, what a reversal. And it was initiated by those 2 prophets, Haggai and Zechariah, who were on the team, whom God showed that window of opportunity. They encouraged Jeshua and Zerubbabel, and the rest of the team responded. And then, not only did they say, you Samaritans, you got to help finance it, but also, chapter 6, verse 11, of Ezra. Here's more of that letter from the king after the Samaritans' plan backfired. He says, I also have made a decree that whosoever shall alter this word, let timber be pulled down from his house and be set up, and let it be hanged thereon. And let his house be made a dunghill for this. Woo! So the Samaritans were not going to mess around anymore with Jerusalem. Verse 12, and the God that hath caused his name to dwell there, destroy all kings and people, shall put to their hand to alter and destroy this house of God, which is at Jerusalem. I, Darius, have made a decree. Let it be done with speed. And then Tatnai, the governor on this side of the river, and Sheshar-Banzai and their companions, those Samaritans that had tried to screw things up again, they had to do according to that which Darius the king had sent, and they did speedily. Their conspiracy had failed, and they even had to act speedily to get it taken care of. Woo! Verse 14, and the elders of the Jews builded, and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet, and Zechariah the son of Iddo, and they built and finished it according to the commandment of God of Israel, according to the commandment of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, that's Cambyses, king of Persia. And this house was finished on the 3rd day of the month Adar, which is in the 6th year of the reign of Darius. So that's why Artaxerxes has to be before Darius. Verse 16, and the children of Israel, the priests and Levites, and the rest of the children of the captivity kept the dedication of this house of God with joy, and offered at the dedication of this house of God 100 bullocks. Wow. So this had been a rebirth. God had pulled off a miracle. He had brought Judah and Jerusalem back to life. Believers from all over the Middle East now knew that there was a temple in Jerusalem functioning again. The vessels stolen by Nebuchadnezzar were returned. God brought together more and more believers to join the team and make that revival happen. Levites and singers and priests once again made sacrifices according to the law of Moses. The feasts were once again celebrated as before. So the ceremonial part of Judaism had been restored. But things were different. The temple was less ornate than Solomon's temple. And the believers were different too. Because the ones that had made the long journey back home were committed to not failing God like the generations before them had sunken into idolatry and experienced God's wrath. The believers were different in another way. They did not speak Hebrew. They spoke Aramaic, one of the common languages of the Babylonian Empire that they had adopted when they were in captivity. Only the priests spoke Hebrew, and a few other individuals who had endeavored to keep their culture alive while in captivity. Their alphabet had even changed to the Babylonian square character set, but they were sorely missing one more thing. They needed a teacher, a scholar, an apostle, to teach them the depth and beauty of the faith that had been lost. And now that the temple had been restored, and the priests and Levites functioning again, and the believers assembling, and prophets functioning, the stage was set for a man of the times, a minister with God's Spirit upon him, with the ability, intellect, leadership, and knowledge, a minister risen up by God to meet the need, a man named Ezra. We will now see at every turning point in the Bible, God has raised up a great minister. Many men and women of God have stood up to deliver and judge God's people, but there are some who stand above the rest because of the nature of the times and the powers and authority God granted to them to be able to rise up to their tasks. Noah was God's man at that kind of critical time. Then Abraham was God's man when Canaan became available. Then Moses arose to deliver them out of slavery. The next great turning point was with David and the kingdom. And now, at this next milestone for this revival, when they had returned from exile and needed someone great, a great man of God to inspire it and teach it, the one that God raised up was Ezra. Look at Ezra chapter 7. Ezra chapter 7. Verse 1. Now after these things, in the reign of Artaxerxes, king of Persia, Ezra the son of Seraiah, the son of Azariah, the son of Hilkiah, the son of Shallum, son of Zadok, son of Ahitub, son of Amariah, son of Azariah, son of Meramoth, son of Zerahiah, the son of Uzi, son of Buki, the son of Abishua, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the high priest. Look at his pedigree. This Ezra went up from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the law of Moses, which the Lord God of Israel had given, and the king granted him all his request according to the hand of the Lord his God upon him. I believe this Artaxerxes to be Darius. The words here, he is a ready scribe or skilled scribe. That is Mahir, Strong's number 4106. It means swift or quick. And so then it would be adapted to quick of wit. In other words, he was sharp. He was skilled. He was expert. I wouldn't doubt if he'd have a photographic memory. I think he was that caliber of person. I've worked with people like that in computers. I had this one guy that when I asked him a question, he would stop and he would look up at the ceiling for a few seconds, and then he would quote me TechNet. TechNet is the geek Bible from Microsoft. And he would quote it from photographic memory. It was unbelievable. Just really something. And I think Ezra was a person of that caliber. He was sharp. He was quick. He was a genius, I think. Psalm 45 verse 1 uses that word. My heart is inditing a good matter. I speak of the things which I have made, touching the king. My tongue is the pen of a skilled, quick writer. Proverbs 22:9 uses this word. Proverbs 22:9. Seest thou a diligent, skilled, quick man in his business? He shall stand before kings. He will not stand before obscure men. All right? So it's this caliber of person that gets to stand before kings. Isaiah 16 verse 5. Isaiah 16 verse 5. And in mercy shall the throne be established, and he shall sit upon it in truth in the tabernacle of David, judging and seeking judgment and hasting, there's the word, being swift to do righteousness. So this is Ezra. Wow. Chapter 7 verse 8. He came to Jerusalem in the 5th month, which was in the 7th year of the king. Upon the 1st day of the 1st month began he to go up from Babylon. On the 1st day of the 5th month came he to Jerusalem. So there it tells how long the trip was. According to the good hand of his God upon him. Verse 10. For Ezra had prepared his heart to seek the law of the Lord, and to do it, and to teach in Israel statutes and judgments. Verse 10 is gold. He had prepared. That's Strong's number 3559. It's kun, K-U-N. It means made firm, to prepare. And he'd prepared his heart. So here's some other occurrences of it. 1 Chronicles 22:19, 2 Chronicles 12:14, 2 Chronicles 30:19 are other occurrences of that word prepared. Here's one, Ecclesiastes 1:13. Solomon says, "And I gave my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail hath God given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith." So this is what he did. Ezra was the same kind of man. And then it says that he prepared his heart to seek the law of the Lord. Not just read it, but seek out, to look for the mysteries, to look for the beauties of it. I think you've witnessed the same kind of seeking in this class, to look through to find all the gems that are in it. Ezra was like that. And then it says to do it. Not just to know the law and to know the mysteries and the depths and the secrets, but to do it, to do it. He was interested in practical application, because what good is head knowledge if you don't do something with it, right? And to teach it. He was able to teach it so people could do it. That's very important, because you got to reach people with your knowledge and help them apply it, because what good is it without that? So that is the character of Ezra. Encyclopedia Britannica speaks of Ezra as, quote, "the reformer who reconstituted the Jewish community on the basis of the Torah," the law or the regulations of the first 5 books of the Old Testament. They go on to say, his work helped make Judaism a religion in which law was central, enabling the Jews to survive as a community when they were dispersed all over the world. Look at his influence. Since his efforts did much to give Jewish religion the form that was to characterize it for centuries after, Ezra has with some justice been called the father of Judaism, the specific form of the Jewish religion that it took after the Babylonian exile. So important was he in the eyes of his people that later tradition regarded him as no less than a second Moses, unquote. So this is Ezra, and he was given authority by the king, and we're going to cover that in the next session. This is what God gave them to teach them about everything. It was part of the revival. It was the missing ingredient. That was Ezra. So, it was an appointed time back then, and now it also is an appointed time. Now it also is a chosen hour. We're going to take a month off now, and we're going to prepare our hearts to seek the Lord like Ezra did. We're going to have the blessing of that teaching of Reverend Wayne Clapp on how to enjoy the Bible. Every Tuesday night in July, and also the first Tuesday in August, the truth of the Word is going to be preached. Revival is in the air. Humble but called believers are responding to come join God's team. Let's influence the world again. like the believers of old. Bless you.